Here we go. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar. A big thank you for tuning in. We know how busy people are, and we're working hard to keep these events interesting and on target. We do encourage questions, so please use the question and chat tools in your webinar console. During the webinar, I'll be monitoring and collecting them for a question and answer discussion afterwards, and these always prove to be very good discussion and question and answer periods. A little bit about our speaker. Min Bassett began developing his insights about creative thinking and problem solving at Procter & Gamble more than 30 years ago. While at P&G, he received 3 U.S. patents and created a corporate-wide internal consulting practice. Following his award-winning doctoral research at the University of Cincinnati, Min became a professor of management in the Michael G. DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University. He continues to teach an executive education program for Aalto University in the Innovative and Creative Problem-Solving module at the Conference Board of Canada's Directors College. Min's first book, The Power of Innovation, became an instant CEO need to read. He founded Bassett Applied Creativity in 1981 and has since traveled the world applying and teaching complexity thinking to many of the world's Fortune 500 companies. Now I'm going to turn it over to Min, where he'll be delving into the world of problem definition and how important this part of the creative process is to innovation. Over to you, Min.
Thanks very much, Bob, and welcome to everybody, new people and people who've been here before. It's so great to have you here to listen to what we're trying to think and say. So I'm going to move on to the how might we statement is something that is just so powerful, and we're going to see why. And then we're also going to talk about why and what's stopping as another powerful statement. Powerful with creativity, not in solutions, but in discovering good problems and discovering innovation. Goals for today, why is it so important? And how do we turn good facts? Last time we met, we did really important fact-finding skills. Why with stopping is a great way to get out of the box, and we'll see how that can happen. We have challenge mapping for strategic thinking, and that is one of the most critical differentiators for people where we go to school to learn solutions, and here we do talk about are we working on the right things. Log jams, if you have an awful lot of problems which are intertwined with each other, we can use the challenge map to help us figure out what the more important ones are. And finally, the how might we does become a new language for innovation along with other things. So let's go. Rhetorical question, why do good organizations fail? And there are many, many answers. But today I want you to focus on the concept of they don't ask, are we working on the right things? Are we solving the right problems? And there, you can think of many examples. One of the most famous that Bob and I talk about is how the Kodak company they discovered digital. They knew digital, but they held it back in order to protect their film industry. And the top people were very worried about losing the golden egg that they had, and other people passed them by and grabbed onto digital, and so they were working on solving the problem of hanging on to our film as opposed to working on another problem called moving into digital as fast as possible. There are examples like this all over the place, and we hate to lose good things, but often we have to disrupt what we're doing to say we've got to work on something different. The innovation process has 4 stages and 8 steps, and remember the styles. Some people prefer generating, some people prefer conceptualizing, optimizing, implementing, and each of those styles likes different parts, problem finding and fact finding. Today, we're going to be focusing on problem definition. This is after we've discovered an opportunity, a new problem, a new situation, but we want to make sure that we are defining it well. And this is the Einstein quote that we all follow. He said if he had an hour to save the world, he'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem, and he'd only need 5 minutes finding the solution. So this is what we're looking at and thinking about that statement. Here is what we know. But on a base of over 21,000 people around the world, people like you guys listening in, the one of the weakest areas that we like is problem definition. Everybody, majority of people are over toward implementation and optimization, and problem definition is a little bit foreign to most of us because we've been schooled on solutions, not discovering problems and inquiring. So this is real factual data, and this is why we need to work hard to understand problem definition, because it's not in our normal way of doing things. Now, problem definition starts with good fact-finding. Now, here, let's do a case study. Let's pretend that we are the government, the cabinet of a Caribbean country, and we have a problem that's been going on years and years. We have hurricanes happen every year, and we decide that we're going to do something about this and solve this problem and for our people. After months of fact-finding, we diverge, we talk to experts everywhere, and we end up with converging upon 5 very clear, simple facts. Many people do not reach the shelters in time. See how that's a simple statement, very clear, and that's one of the things about fact-finding that is just vital. Injuries and deaths due to hurricanes are just spoken on the islands. A lot of panic and chaos evident, and the newspapers and media are starting to question our commitment on the hurricane situation. So we work very hard to make those very simple, clear facts. For us, what we say comes out of our brains, what we're thinking, and if we're thinking fuzzy, what will come out of our mind, our mouths will be also fuzzy, so nice and clear. Now, there are 3 kinds of questions that are important in the world. Fact-finding questions are who, what, where, when, why. Where we ask a fact-finding question, we get an answer. How many people live in the United States? Somebody says about 330 million. Decision-finding questions are based on the word should. Should I buy the Toyota or should I buy the Nissan? And the answer is going to be one or the other, and the should is in there. Now the third powerful question is called idea finding, and this starts with how might we? So if I say, how might we get more people to vacation in northern Canada in the wintertime, I'd be looking for some ideas coming up. And so if you responded, make a big deal about showing the northern lights, invite people from southern climates to visit igloos, things like that, you would be giving me ideas. Those are all ideas. So if we say, how might we, it automatically get solutions coming in, and that's the critical feature. How might we? Now, why do we ask how might we? One is we turn negatives into positives. Now, if somebody says it would cost too much to do that, well, how might we find a way to do it cheaper? If somebody says we don't do it that way here, we say, well, how might we get people excited about doing it differently? So we turn negatives into positives, and how might we is a very, very positive statement. The second one is turning facts into exciting challenges. Let's go back to the hurricane. Remember those facts? Look at some of the things you could come up with many, many, many more. How might we get the people to shelters in time? How might we save more lives at hurricane time? How might we get the message to them in time? How might we ensure everybody understands the message? How might we keep people more calm? How might we engage the newspapers and media in helping us? And how might we get reelected? There could be many, many more. How might we protect our tourist industry? How might we keep all people safe? This is diverging, as you recall. There's divergence and there's convergence. This is where we use our imagination to create exciting challenges from facts. Now here's an example of being creative about how we define the problem. This is a real-life example I ran into when I was working with Frito-Lay, a marvelous company who engaged an awful lot of people in solving creative problems. Now, I was asked to help out a team that was stuck, and what was happening was that there was a lot of manual work done on taking bags of chips off the line and putting them into cartons. So people would be doing this boring work of putting 36 bags of chips into a carton and then sealing the carton. And the team was working on how to maybe get rid of all this manual work and automate. So what happened was that an outside company came in and said, you know, we could help you solve that problem. We could install a methodology where you could not have to manually pack, but there's one stipulation: you would have to lay the bags flat when they enter when they go in the carton, instead of straight up and down. And I think the savings was like many, many millions of dollars. But the problem was the sales team said, wait a minute, you can't do that, because we have to have the grocer. He wants to count the number of bags inside quickly before he'll give us his money. So we had so there was opposition, and we were getting nowhere. Well, then we said, what are the two key facts? What are the two key facts? One is we could lay the bags flat, and we could save an awful lot of money by doing that. Another fact is that the sales department says the grocer needs to be able to count those bags really, really fast. Well, that led to a very innovative definition. Simple. How might we lay the bags flat, yet still let the grocer quickly know how many bags are inside the carton? Now, you probably are thinking of some ideas already once that problem has been defined. And we use the phrase, could a nation who put a man on the moon figure out how to lay the bags flat, you still let the grocer quickly know what's inside? Now, I can't tell you what the team decided to do, but that was a breakthrough where we said, given the facts, what's a neat way to define the problem? The why we're stopping analysis is very critical, and that's when we've got a problem that we think we've got defined, we can look harder by asking the question, why might we want to, or what's stopping us from? And as long as we answer in a complete simple sentence, we can then transform the answer into a new breakthrough challenge with another how might we. So here's an example. This is our handy person example, and the way this works is we've got a situation in a chemical plant. Something's happened in the plant and there's a problem. There's a buoyant float that keeps the plant going, and it's been taking on water over a period of time. It's been taking on water, and all of a sudden the float loses buoyancy and production is stopped. And you're the handy person, and all of a sudden you are stuck with this situation. The owner runs out the door, says, hey, fix this problem as fast as you can, do something about it, and you are left sitting there. So the question would be, if you were the handy person, what would some of the challenges come into your mind? Well, here's some. How might I make the leak more visible? How might I find the leak? Now, if I ask myself, why would I want to find the leak, it might lead to, it would help me repair the leak. How might I repair the leak? Why might I want to repair the leak? It would help me restore buoyancy. Well, how might I restore buoyancy? You see, as we go up, we are getting broader and broader and broader by asking the question, why might I want to? On the other hand, if we came downwards, we'd be able to say, what's stopping us getting production going, and how might I get the machine running? So we're going up and down. It's an array. Now, from the owner's perspective, probably the most narrow problem might be, how might I meet the shipping schedule? Why? Well, that might help me satisfy customers. Why might I want to satisfy customers? It helped me build my sales volume. And as you go up and up, you're getting more and more into the strategic problems and challenges, like how might I keep myself and my employees in long-term jobs? So there's two different perspectives, but we get broader and broader as we ask why. We get narrower and narrower as we ask what's stopping. What's stopping me from satisfying my customers? I'm not able to meet my shipping schedule. Now, if I put these things together, they stack up together, and this is what we call strategic alignment. Every one of the lower level challenges will feed all the upper challenges. If we ask what's stopping us, it'll come downwards. So this is a strategic perspective. It's the power of the why was stopping analysis. Now let's go further. If we start asking why else or what else, why else or what else, what happens is that we can make a challenge map. And we put one how might we in the middle, and we ask repeatedly why would we want to. We get things across the top, and what's stopping us, we get how mights along the bottom. Let's go see further. Here's an example, the hurricane. What if I put how might we get the people to the shelters in time? Now, if I ask what's one thing stopping us from getting the people to the shelters in time, it might lead to we don't have enough shelters, which would be how might we build more shelters? And then we could say what else is stopping us from getting people to the shelters in time? And what happens is we get how might we warn the people earlier because they're not getting the message in time. Next one is what's stopping us is our transportation to the shelters at hurricane time is very poor. So how might we improve transportation to the shelters? Now, why might we want to get the people to the shelters in time? Well, one is that a lot of people are getting killed, which would lead to how might we save more lives at hurricane time? Now, why else might we want to get the people to the shelters in time? That might lead to how might we reduce injuries at hurricane time? Broader. Why else might we want to get the people to the shelters in time? Well, somebody says there's an awful lot of chaos, and if they're in the shelters, it won't happen. So how might we reduce panic and chaos at hurricane time? That's another one. If we keep on asking why and what's stopping of the various ones, we get broader and broader near the top, up toward things like how might we make sure we get reelected? How might we keep our tourist industry solid? Down below, what's stopping us from warning the people earlier might be how might we predict hurricanes earlier and things like that. You can make an entire map. Well, here's one of my best stories that illustrates this, and some of you will have heard this, but it doesn't hurt again, but some of you will not have. This was a major learning for me while at Procter & Gamble. One of our competitors, while I was there, introduced a new product called Irish Spring. And this was a very new product, very interesting. It was striped, green and white stripes, and nobody had made a green stripe product before. Stripes were kind of interesting. On television, they would show you a man with a knife cutting the bar so you indeed could see the green stripes. Well, what was that supposed to do for you? Well, that was, by the way, that was pretty good. Well, they showed a guy in the middle, Irish, taking a shower with refreshment all around him, dew on the grass, a mountain stream over here, blue sky up there, clouds over there, everything green. And the idea was that if you use this bar, you would feel more refreshed in the morning. So it took off like a rocket. And P&G had been caught flat-footed by this company, and we put a bunch of people together to work on it. And I got a phone call a while later, and the leader of the team said, we're in real trouble. We're trying so hard, and we try making better green stripe bars. Every month we've made one. We go against Irish Spring, and the best we can do is equal them. We can't beat them. And he said, in our company, there's a rule. You can't just go and say we're equal to the other people. You got to show that you're better. And they won't let you go to market until you show that you can win a blind test with customers showing that they prefer your bar versus theirs. So they said they're very demoralized, we're trying real hard, and we should have a creative session. Well, here's what we did. We had a creative session, and in the morning we spent on are we working on the right things, on problem definition. So we started off with what had been happening, how might we make a better green stripe bar? Now my job as the leader, facilitators, to say why might we want to make a better green stripe bar? Now somebody said we've lost market share, which led to how might we regain market share. And you can see there are more options to regain market share than how we'll make a better green stripe bar. Now my job is to say that's good, let's diverge again. Why else might we want to make a better green stripe bar? The group had trouble answering this question, and I was trying to help as best I could, and I thought, maybe I could help the group think by pretending we're somebody else. And I thought, what about a user of bars? So I said, let's ask the question again. From a user standpoint, why might we want to make a better green stripe bar? And somebody said, we'd like to make people feel more refreshed. And that led to how might we make a more refreshing bar? Now we went on and on. The map got bigger and bigger, but that was the getting out of the box, how might we? The group said, aha, they really like that one, and they chose it. Now if I asked you, how is it compared to the one below? Everybody says, well, it's got a lot more options. You don't have to be green stripes. But which one has the most options? It's the one at the top. How might we regain market share? Now the group said, that's too many options. We think there's a really good market in refreshment. That's the one we want to go with. That's a major aha, getting out of the box. What happened next was we went into step 4, which is ideas or solutions, and we began to generate ideas in the afternoon. In 2 or 3 hours, we generated over 200 ideas on how we might indicate refreshment in a bar. And when we finished, there were 2 that were best, converging. One person said, I like going to the beach to feel refreshed. The white sand, the blue sky, the breezes blowing, the white clouds, blue sky. And somebody else said, I like going to the seacoast, which came out that afternoon. We invented a bar called Coast. It was blue and white swirly, indicated being at the beach, and we were finally able to beat Irish Spring in a blind test, which allowed us to go to market. And 30 years later, we are still in that market, a very, very big market with many, many competitors all making green and blue stripes. But we are still at the point where that was a breakthrough. Now, what's the problem? If I asked you how long did this solution take, the answer is a couple of hours once we were working on the right thing. What stopped us from doing that was we spent 6 months jumping from step 1 to step 8, and would cost us 6 months of deadlock. Defining the problem better would have saved a lot of time, and this is the problem with us. Most of us think in terms of solutions, not in terms of problems, and we often jump to solve the wrong problem because we're in too big a hurry. The team says we had to go fast. So what they did was they would go from 1 to 8 6 times. Problem finding to action, back and forth, fuzzy situation to action. But if we proceed through 8, it will save us a lot of time. So we go from step 1 to 3, and if we invest a little bit of time in thinking through. Now, why don't we do this naturally? One of the reasons, not only because we're in a hurry, we've never been taught this. This is called problem definition, and in some cases, people will call it an aspect of design thinking. But we're not taught this in school. We're taught solutions all the way through high school, most college, engineering, business, and we're often not understanding how to go from fuzzy situation, fact-finding, to problem definition. We take the problem as given as opposed to redefining the problem. So that's a major tool. It's called Let's Not Jump from 1 to 8. It becomes a language of innovation. Now, here was another really interesting thing. This was with the Ford Motor Company, and they had a new plant that was very avant-garde. It was doing very good as a total plant in front-wheel axles. But the problem was that this plant, while overall was very, very good, they were having trouble with one department, and they were making transmission cases. And they were running at only 40 cases a shift where they could have been doing a whole lot better. And they had tried a lot to solve this problem, but it wasn't working for them. Now, we had a 3-day session, and we decided to use the creative process. And the first thing we did was we had everybody fill out the creative problem-solving profile styles inventory. Guess what? 15 people were on the left-hand side, 8 implementers and 7 optimizers, managers from across the plant, not one generator, not one conceptualizer. Well, this was very, very interesting to the group because they began to understand the process and maybe what was going wrong. They had gone from solution after solution, grab a solution, optimization, implement it, go back and forth and back and forth. Now, this let me ask them, could we stay in fact-finding for a couple of days? Let's forget solutions. Let's stay in fact-finding and problem definition, which we did. And people would say, well, the fact is that we asked HR if we could do so-and-so, and they said no. The HR person said, you never asked us that. I don't remember you ever asking that. And the idea is they were assuming things rather than really getting facts. So here's what happened. They defined 3 new problems accurately and solved each one. They went from solution finding to solution implementing 3 times on 3 different problems that they came up with, and they went to 120 cases per shift very, very quickly. So overall, they cost themselves a lot of anguish by not knowing how to do fact-finding and problem definition, only knowing, let's grab a solution and try it. Let's grab a solution and try it. Okay? That's another real-life case study. Now, where did the words "what's stopping you" come from? I remember the day that came out of my mouth, and it was such a powerful, not how, but what's stopping you. And it's the 8 boilers down to 4 story. I've published this story, but I'd like to go over it with you. This was a situation where this is Procter & Gamble, we had industrial engineers coming in from all over the country and wanting to learn the creative problem-solving process, Simplexity, so they could do their jobs better, making changes in the plants. But everybody had to come with a problem. That's the name of the game. You come with a problem. So we got people working in small groups helping each other. And one group was kind of stuck. And they said, we got this one guy in our group here, and he was working on how am I to get my plant to go from 8 boilers down to 4. But he says, the guy from Atlanta plant just told me they've already done it. So I guess I don't have a problem anymore because I know how to do it now. And the team was very frustrated in trying to help him. Like he came with a problem, and all of a sudden he didn't have a problem. So they asked me to help, and so we asked some questions to try to move. And the words came out of my mouth, and that was, listen, if you already know how, then what is stopping you from going from 8 boilers down to 4? Can you just tell us what's stopping you? And he said over and over again, nothing's stopping me. I know how to go from 8 boilers down to 4. So it was kind of difficult, and we knew there was something in there that we could pull out. And finally, an answer came out that said, the department managers are not interested in conserving energy, which led to 2 new challenges. How am I to get the department managers more interested in conserving energy, and how am I to get energy usage reduced in my plant? I think that's actually why his plant manager sent him to do that, to get around and get out of the box, to find another way of defining the problem that he could attack as opposed to what he thought he came in with. Okay, real live thing, and why what's stopping the process is so important, and what's stopping is something that really gets into problems. If you say how, people are going to give you solutions. If you say what's stopping you, they're going to tell you the real fact, and you can turn that into a very innovative problem definition. Another one. This is a soft drink manufacturer that was split into US franchisees and franchisor. The company had 200 bottling plants, and 100 were owned by the franchisees, original people who bought interest in the company, and the company had bought back 100, and so they were making quite a bit of money, doing very, very well. And the problem was that there were some difficulties in how they got along. The franchisees felt often that they were left out. The company might put on a new program but never ask them, and sometimes they thought they could have done a better job if they'd asked us. Some of them were worried that the company might be trying to buy them up, so there's a bit of a trust problem. The company said, gee, we're doing the best we can. We hire the best people we can. We get good commercials on, and we're doing so. Yeah, we forget once in a while, but gee, I wish you would trust us more. Well, anyway, we had a meeting with the president and some of his top people, and the 7 most reliable, respected bottlers in the country. And we did a challenge map, and I'm going to show it to you as we go from the top down. And it isn't the way it happened, but I'm going to show you it this way. At the very top was how would we help each other improve operating profitability. Everybody thought that was a great challenge. Now, if you ask what's stopping of that, there's 2 things that come out. One is, on the left-hand side, there were a lot of new customers coming out, like the Walmarts and the Costcos. How do we know how to handle them? And another one was, a lot of our people are so worried about what they're going to lose, let's get them thinking about what they're going to win in the future. Now, there was one more in the middle, and I usually, when I share this problem or this case study, I ask people to guess. What else might be stopping us from helping each other improve operating profitability? Well, what came out, in a way, one way or another, came out, we don't have any mutual goals. How might we agree on mutual goals? And what's stopping us from doing that was we don't trust each other enough. How might we build two-way trust so we could come up with mutually agreed goals? That was a big one. Another what's stopping was we don't really have much of a long-term strategy. We're just out there selling, 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 and making, making, making. That led to more. At the bottom, how might we keep the franchisees well informed on the macro trends? How might we maintain reliable processes for communication? How might we minimize funding as a trust issue? And how might we get all the franchisees believing the president's acquisition message? There were only 7 of them there. There are 93 who weren't there. Now, that took a day and a half to create this challenge map. And then they chose evaluation. They chose the trust as number 1 by far, and the other 2 also important. We spent most of the rest of the time solving the trust one and a little bit of time on the other 2 because they were quicker. We could do them quicker. Okay, so that is a strategic plan. The client challenge map is a strategic plan. They followed this on this problem for the next year and were able to make a lot of headway together. Okay, so that's the power. Are we asking the right questions? And then we can agree on them, and then we can solve them. Here's another one. This is a car parts manufacturing company, very big, and they were having difficulty. They were tremendous. They were making commodity parts, unfortunately, for the auto industry. And they were making very high-quality products and low cost. But after a while, you can only go so far improving quality and reducing cost, and then you're being pushed. And they would be pushed by the big 3 in terms of, we'll give you the business, but you got to reduce your cost even more, or you got to give us a big give back. So it was a difficult time for them. So they said, well, we got to have some innovation. So we were asked to help them with their worry about innovation, and we worked quite hard. And the first thing that happened was they had formed a team on innovation, and they told us that they were over in this office, but the only people there were the engineers. And right off the bat, I don't think we have all the right people. Where are the customers? Where are the marketing people? Where are the sales people? Where are the factory people? So we began to do more and more work with the company, and we finally ended up with this problem definition that we worked with them to create. And here's how it turned out. At the very top was how might we grow our short and long-term profit. Now, the short would be the commodities. Long-term would be the new kinds of business that they'd have to develop. Underneath it, there were 4. How might we sustain our current profits, but then how might we increase the percentage of high-margin sales? How might we differentiate ourselves from others? How might we derive additional revenue each year from newly commercialized products? The group came up with these by using the why was stopping analysis with our guidance. That's how it came out. Well, what's stopping us from, now the 3 on the right are going to be the long-term profit guys. What's stopping us? This came out. We are not commercializing enough new products each year. So how might we commercialize more new products each year? That came out as very, very big, and they call that our business need. That's the business need if we're going to do anything. Now, what's stopping us from commercializing more new products each year? I could ask you to guess, and to save you a little bit of time, it was something very unusual. They said we have 4 departments that really should be working on this, but they don't. Sales, marketing, the factory, and R&D. They are all working in their own silos, and they don't work very well and very often together, which led, how might we get 4 different functions working together as a team to commercialize more new products? That was an aha, believe it or not. And, you know, so many companies in the world today are still siloed. It's not that hard to believe. They're all working at making their own numbers. Well, that led to then more, and it ended up with how might we make it easier to move validated concepts to market faster? One of those things is a lot of people say we don't need any new ideas. They sit in purgatory and nobody does anything with them. On the right-hand side, how might we sell new products as well as we sell current products? That's a nice way of saying one thing stopping us is our salespeople don't get excited about new products. It takes too long to sell them, and they want to just go out and take orders. And where do we fit in was at the bottom. How might we adopt an easy-to-use, innovative process, simplicity, everyone can learn and apply? Those are the 3 factors in a strategic plan for innovation. You got to have a business need to rafter, you got to have a structure to do it, and we have to have a process. Now, what they came up with was commercialization teams, and what they would do is they would take their people, phone up General Motors, get together with them, do some problem finding with General Motors, identify problems with that company, and then start developing new products that would solve those problems. And that's the strategic plan for innovation. Now, I did this for fun as a teaching piece. It might have happened this way, and let's see, this is 30 years ago. This is before we had all the computerized stuff that we have right now. So here's a person in the bank, and he or she says, you know, I got an idea. How might we automate the teller's job? This is an idea I've got. Now, rather than running and going and doing it somehow, he says, wait a minute, I'm going to ask why what's stopping here, really understand what I'm trying to do. So why would I want to do that? Well, it would help us reduce the number of tellers on our payroll. Yeah. Why might we want to reduce the tellers? Well, would it help us reduce our operating costs? That's another noble thing. Well, he says, now before I go any further, I'm going to go back. They taught me to diverge. Why else would I want to automate the teller's job? Well, that led to, how might we reduce waiting in line time for our customers? Aha, that's there too. And why would we want to do that? Well, it'd help us make banking more accessible and convenient for our customers. Well, that's pretty good too. Well, now we're building a map. We're starting to understand. Now, asking why again. Why would you want to reduce operating costs? Well, it would increase our short-term profits. Yes, it would. Why else might we want to reduce those operating costs? Hey, if you can imagine a bank saying this, how might we reduce the cost of banking to our customers? That might be a competitive edge. And why might we want to reduce the cost of banking to our customers? It would help us increase customer satisfaction, as well as make the banking more accessible. Well, now we got this map going, and now we say, why do we want to increase customer satisfaction? Would that help us keep our customers coming back for more and more new services? Yes, it would. And also, would it help us attract new customers? Well, yes, it would. Well, over here, if we do that, would that help us increase our profits long term? Well, yes, it would. And over here, if we increase short-term profits, we'll become an effective organization because we're doing both. Now, on the left-hand side, this is the efficiency path. On the right-hand side, it's the adaptability path or customer satisfaction. And good organizations are going to make sure they're working both, adaptability and efficiency, as you recall. That's how it might have happened, but that's practice how a person can make themselves a much more valuable person to their company by presenting not just half the story, but the other half to get people to buy in and say, a heck of a good idea. Now, our learnings. We're getting near the end, and I hope some of this has been good to you, but let's recap. Implementers have to be patient. They are powerful people and often are in leadership positions throughout because they get things done. But if they want to get things done well, they have to be patient when a new problem comes along and take the time not to jump from 1 to 8. That's the new problem. But let's sit around and work together and involve everybody in what are some facts about this situation and start generating what are some challenges about this situation from the facts and end up with a very, very interesting how might we that saves a lot of time. Like the green stripe story, take some time to say, you know what we're really trying to do is how might we make more refreshment in bars. So that's one thing. Now the two steps are, first of all, we generate how mights, and then we ask what's stopping and why we then work further and get deeper. Now in challenge mapping, we are diverging. Every time we ask the question why and get another one, we're diverging. Every time we ask the question what's stopping, we're diverging. But we're diverging on problems. We call problems challenges. That's all the same thing, whether they're opportunities, whether it doesn't really matter. They're things that we want to do, as you remember from our problem finding session. Now, asking why broadens the problem. Every time we ask why and answer, we broaden the problem. There's another thing about vague language that I want to throw in. That's the use simple language. If we don't use simple language, we're in trouble. So let's see what can happen. Let's say we have a manufacturing company who says, you know, an important problem for us is how might we decrease the number of defects in product X? Well, somebody says, what's stopping us? Yeah, what's stopping us? And somebody says, motivation. One word, motivation. Now, if they accept that, that leads to how might we increase motivation? Well, somebody says, let's ask the question why. Why might we want to decrease the number of defects in product X? Somebody says, motivation, which leads to how might we increase motivation? Now we got increased motivation above and below, and that can't be. The process doesn't really let that happen. Well, we go back and say, let's make some complete sentences. What's stopping us from decreasing the number of defects in product X? Somebody say, well, a lot of our people are not really excited about reducing defects. They're pretty apathetic. That leads to how might we get our employees excited about improving the quality of product X, not motivation. Now, why might we want to decrease the number of defects? Ask it again. And somebody says, we're making such sloppy products, a lot of our people are kind of ashamed to tell people they work in the company when they go home. How might we help our employees take more pride in what they're producing at the plant? Very, very different problem definitions because we avoided the vagueness. So we talk about the language is vital. A subject, a verb, and a predicate. And when you ask the question why, we've got to answer in a complete simple sentence. What's stopping you from getting on with your project? And the fellow says, money. One word. Well, okay, but could you give us a little more? Not enough money. Well, we have a phrase. Could you tell us a little more? My boss is not interested in my project and won't fund it. Aha! How might I get my boss more interested in my project so I could get the money? Totally different when we are very clear what we're saying, and it's got to be simple. Everybody's got to understand it. And that includes the courage to say what you think. You got to be able to say, I think last time we were together when somebody finally said, what's stopping us from making the recommendation is not that we haven't completed our testing totally, it's that we're afraid to pass a recommendation up to management which isn't totally sure that we've got the quality down pat, but we still think we should do it. So that leads to how might we make the recommendation in such a way that we tell management what the risk is and ask them to take the risk with us. They made the recommendation that way, and it was approved the next morning for $12 million. So these are all thoughts about how we do a very, very important job called problem definition, and before we run off and maybe jump to solutions. Bob, that's all I'm going to say right now, and I'm hoping that you might have got some good questions for people that I could maybe improve on what I've done so far.